guys, it's Danielle with Northlawn Flower Farms. In today's video, I want to talk all about how to care for Dracaena. Now I have these two Dracaenas living here with me in our home, and they've been here since the day that we moved in. These were the first thing that I purchased for our home 5 years ago. They flank either side of our dining room, and I've learned a lot about having these plants for the past 5 years. What they like, what they don't like, and especially about watering. So we'll get to that in just a minute. So a little bit about the Dracaena. You may have also seen this variety called corn plant. They're native all throughout tropical Africa, and they really are an easy care house plant, especially if you're someone who's neglectful of houseplants. If you forget to water your houseplants often, I would give Dracaena a try. So let's talk about the big four of all houseplants, what these plants need: light, water, temperature, and humidity. So we'll start off with light. Now the Dracaena likes medium to bright, indirect sunlight, and you don't want to expose it to direct sunlight, meaning you wouldn't want to put it right up against a window where it's getting bright light on its leaves all day long. It's going to burn out, and often the leaves themselves will actually bleach out. So you might have an issue there with the leaves being bleached out and burning out on the tips if you place them into direct sunlight. A lot of people say, I don't understand what medium light really means. And I understand, it can be really confusing. So I would describe it as this. If you have no artificial light on in your house during the day, and you can comfortably read a newspaper in that location, but the sun isn't beaming straight onto your newspaper, that's a good place to put your plant. So I hope that's helpful in explaining medium to bright indirect light. Remember, don't get the light right onto the leaves. A few feet away from the light is best. Think maybe even 4 to 8 feet away from a window. All right, let's move on to watering. And if you take nothing else away from this video, I hope you'll take what I can share with you about water, things that I've experienced, things I've learned from educators. So let's just jump right into it. The Dracaena wants to dry all the way down. The worst thing you can do for the Dracaena is to overwater her. She's gonna get root rot, and really it's hard to rebound, once your roots really start to rot out. You might as well just get a new one and start over again. So how often should you water the Dracaena? Like I say, you want it to dry all the way down. So that's going to vary depending on your pot size, your plant size, the medium that it's in, the humidity in your home. So I can tell you that I water these larger Dracaenas. They're probably about 4 feet now if I was standing, 4.5 feet, and they're 5 years old. I water them once every 2 weeks in the growing season, and now here in the winter, it's January, I'm only watering them about once every 3 weeks. But I'm not watering them on a schedule, like 2 weeks has passed, okay, I need to water them. I am really making sure each time that that medium is completely dried up, because while they can handle being on the drier side for a few days, if you give them too much water consistently, rot's gonna set in, and then we're all gonna be sad about that situation. Now we need to talk about something really important, which is the type of water that you are using to water your Dracaenas. And unlike a lot of other houseplants that, they can handle water straight from the city tap, the Dracaena generally cannot handle that. They're a monocot, and they're very much like the spider plant in that they are susceptible to fluoride toxicity. So the best kind of water to use if possible is rainwater that you collect from outside. I like to do that if possible. Your next best bet, if you have a well, you can just use well water as long as you don't have naturally high levels of fluoride in that well water. And you can also use reverse osmosis water, which does take the fluoride out of your water. And just so you know, I have seen on some blogs and just like some pages that you can let tap water with fluoride sit out for 24 hours and the fluoride will evaporate, and that's not true. Fluoride does not evaporate. It does not turn into a gas naturally at room temperature. And actually, if you were to heat up water with fluoride in it over the stovetop, you've actually increased the parts per million of fluoride in that water. So just avoid that school of thought altogether. So what you want to go is rainwater, best case, well water without fluoride in it. You might have to test it. Reverse osmosis water. Now if you're saying to me, this sounds absolutely ridiculous, I'm just going to water, with tap water. Pump the brakes. I promise you, you'll probably have some problems. So, you might think rainwater is hard to collect. I promise you, it's really not. My husband uses those big green jugs that you can get at the grocery store, and he puts a big funnel on top, and anytime it rains or at this time of year when it snows, he sticks it out there and collects the water that way. But since you don't need to water the Dracaena that often, you don't really need that much rainwater on hand. So I really would go the extra mile. Try to collect the rainwater. And also I know that at places like Whole Foods that you can purchase reverse osmosis water, and it really is worth it. I know it might sound ridiculous, but I promise you, just do it. Just do it. Let me tell you a story in case you still don't believe me. So when we first moved here, I bought these plants. This was a new house for us, so I wasn't really familiar with the water. I bought these Dracaenas. They were much shorter then, probably about, well, oh my gosh, you can even tell. It was probably like right here. I was watering them with tap water, and I was watering them on the correct schedule. But what was happening is that they were burning here on the tips. So basically the whole tip was dying back, and then the death was continuing up. There was also death on the margins of the plant surrounded by yellow, which is really a great way to know that it's fluoride toxicity. If you see that browning here on the margins with yellow around. And at the time, 5 years ago, I was like, oh my, what is happening? This is so strange. I had never experienced that before. Did some research, talked to some professors, come to find out, it is fluoride toxicity. Now you can experience browning on the tips, if it is in direct sun, or maybe your home is really, really dry and you don't have good humidity, you can get some brown tips like that. But normally that brown tip is going to just be the tip. It's not going to continue up the plant, and it's not going to get that strong yellowing around the margin. And if you need some more clarification, just go ahead and do a search of Dracaena, fluoride toxicity, and then probably put EDU too in the Google search so that you're coming up with good, reputable information. All right, so I hope that's a lot of information to unpack, but it really is important when caring for Dracaena, and also some other monocots like the spider plant is going to suffer from fluoride toxicity also. Something else with water to think about is, when you have these big, beautiful leaves, and they often will get dust on them, so you can just use a damp cloth, and every once in a while wipe the leaves down just like this, to collect any dust and dirt, and that allows your plant to be able to breathe. This is also a really good time to inspect your plant for pests. I have never had any pests on mine, but I have heard some people to have, mealybugs, spider mites, scale, thrips. So this is a good time to examine the leaf. Also make sure to always examine the bottom of the leaf, because that's a lot of times where that insect is living and breeding, is on the other side of the plant. And if you're losing leaves on your Dracaena up here, probably it is a pest issue. So go ahead and check your plant out thoroughly and treat it however you see fit. Okay, now let's move on to some easier things. Let's go on to temperature. The Dracaena likes temperatures between 60 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the ideal temperature. You can go slightly lower than that. You can go slightly higher than that, but just avoid any kind of extremes in temperature. Now I've actually moved this one over closer to me for the purpose of this video, and you see that there's a heat register right behind it. This is not where this one normally lives. I wouldn't normally put it that close to a heat register. It's just for sake of the video today. And also, any kind of really, really serious cold drafts you want to avoid. So, if I had a doorway to the outside right here, I probably wouldn't want to place my Dracaena right next to that doorway. Just think about those things. Okay, last up is humidity. The Dracaena is really forgiving of humidity. It likes relative humidity of 40% in the home. That's considered average humidity to almost low. I have never provided my Dracaenas additional humidity, but you certainly can. You know, the best thing to do is to invest in a humidifier. That's number one. You can place your Dracaena on a tray of pebbles filled with water, and as the water evaporates, the Dracaena can take that water in. That's not something that I'm doing for mine, especially when they get larger like this. I just feel like it's kind of a nuisance and cumbersome to go through all that. And quite frankly, our home is on the drier side, and these guys are fine. I think really if you take nothing else away from this video, it's just to avoid direct sunlight and to make sure to only water when the medium is completely dry, and to water with water that does not have fluoride or excess mineral and salt content in it. Another question I get asked sometimes is, do I need to fertilize my Dracaena? Now you can. I don't. I've never fertilized our Dracaena. You know, they can flower. I've heard sometimes in the home it can take about 10 years to get them to flower, but for me, since fertilizer does sometimes add, you know, extra salt and mineral buildup into the water, and since they are sensitive to those kinds of things, I just don't fertilize them at all, because I'd rather have them living forever in my home than to push off, you know, one or two more leaves that fertilizer might give them. Now, if you are fertilizing, you know, once a month, it's a really good idea to leach your plant every once in a while, which means you take it, you know, outside and you water it thoroughly with rainwater and let all those extra salts and mineral buildup flush all the way through your plant. It's kind of a nice cleansing process for your plant. Well, guys, I think that brings me to the end of the video on Dracaena. I hope this information was helpful. I hope it wasn't too confusing when it comes to watering. I hope I was clear in the message I wanted to deliver there. But give Dracaena a try, because, you know, if you have a spot in your home where you want a nice big plant, or maybe you're someone that travels a lot and you're only home maybe once every 2 weeks, the Dracaena would be a great plant for you. Well, until next time, happy gardening. Bye!